Today we have a very special guest. She holds a bachelor's degree in Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration from San Francisco State University in California. She is a speaker and an author of a book called Being Grounded, 21 Days to Come, Alive and Love Life. Love Your Life. And without further hesitation, I'd like to introduce you to Carolyne, the founding principal of VPF Strategies. Welcome to the podcast. How are you, Carolyne?
I am doing excellent. Thank you very much, Samuel. It's a great opportunity to be here. Looking forward to interfacing with you.
Great. So how has your week been?
My week has been great. Today's Friday? And so the end of the week. This week has been quite phenomenal in terms of engaging new ideas and really interfacing with new strategic partners, learning from them, and figuring out how I want to position myself in the next 2022. I mean, in the next month of 2022, I should say.
That must have been quite very intense in terms of your planning.
Intense, but actually more, I tend to be quite reflective. So I think for me, it was more of a have moment, more of sort of, wow, I didn't see that coming. I mean, I sort of having this eureka moments that inspire growth, but at the same time challenges myself to really be in touch with sort of kind of trying to figure out not necessarily why I didn't see that before, but how that new information can inform me moving forward, but also inform me to really sort of debunk the myopia that I've had.
All right. Okay. So just setting the conversation, who is Carolyne?
Who is Carolyne? Carolyne is a very interesting, complex, joyous person. So I'm glad that you asked. But in a nutshell, Carolyne loves people. Carolyne loves to really engage others into a lot of inspiration. Carolyne stories started in Africa. And so a lot of the way I see the world is informed by my ability to adapt, my ability to persevere. And so I bring those skills into those people that I interface with, particularly in the work that I do. It's all about really inspiring others to pursue meaningful work. And I find that unless really you and I are in touch with who we are and why we want to do what we want to do and how we want to do it in terms of the environment that we want to create, it's very hard to be able to move forward. So in my journey to navigate that for myself, I discovered that those key points are quite relevant, and a lot of people would love to in order for you to create, you would have to really detangle that. And so Carolyne really enjoy helping people grow in all contexts, helping and creating environments that are thriving to create sort of those creativities and to create those interfaces and relationships.
Interesting. So how has it been empowering people to grow in their careers or growing their life? How has that been?
It's been great. It's been extremely fun, especially we are in a time where perhaps many of us don't see growth. We just see the pandemic or whatever the case might be. But I've learned that growth tends to come from places of extreme challenges. And yes, well, many of us may not like challenges. The truth of the matter is change is the only constant thing. And it's from change that we actually get to iterate and figure out new phenomenal things that otherwise we wouldn't have. And so when you think of growth, I think one is having that understanding that if you're not willing to grow, you will die. But if you're willing to grow, you have more to contribute to the world. But then you cannot just grow from the point of just mental aspect of it. You need to grow from a comprehensive persona, which is considered things like, who are you, Lily? And not necessarily who you are vis-a-vis, oh, I'm fun, I'm beautiful, whatever. No, it's who are you from the point of what are the things that matter to you? And if those things that matter to you, you might as well create a life around that and begin to communicate to the world and articulate to the world because this is who I am. Because if you're not, you will be somebody else based on the winds and the ebbs and flow of what's going on around you.
Interesting. Now that you're talking about things that matter, do you think that school education matters, or people should just jump into businesses?
Oh, I absolutely think school matters, Lily. As I remember personally when I was in college, I went to college as an older adult. I mean, I went to school here and I was quite in my 20s at the time. I mean, you think usually, I'm in America, so you would find sometime you have a 19-year-old and a 20-year-old, 21-year-old in school. I went to school a little bit just above that, I think I was 25 or whatever. But so when you think about me going to school as an older student, the way I looked at school was completely different. And I remember meeting this person. He was actually older himself. He was in his 40s at the time. And we were talking because we kind of felt that the reason we connected, because we were the eldest, we would be the older bunch in the classroom. And he also used to work in some government office. And I remember he telling me a story that really inspired me. And it's what I want to get to in terms of why should people go to school. And his point was that when this, he used the term these kids, I mean, he was making an empirical statement. And they don't realize that school is not just for getting A's or getting B's or whatever, getting that degree or the GPA that you're looking for, but rather it helps you, molds you to learn to interact with people and create and have those conflict resolution sort of skill set. Because once you move to the corporate environment or work environment, you're faced with those real life experiences that nobody will actually come and help you navigate it. And this is what he said. We need to begin to think of school from a completely different perspective. It's not about degrees. It's not about so you can get a job. It's about so you can learn how to be kind, how you can learn how to be empathize with other people, and also be somebody of value in your community or somebody with that integrity. Because if you don't, you actually won't last in the next phase that you're going into, which is corporate America, which is the workforce, and it tends to be very cutthroat. Nobody has the time to manage your shenanigans there. So that I thought that was quite interesting. And being that I was an older student, I realized I actually had an edge, if you will, because I was working and at the same time going to school. And that sort of helped me even see myself a little bit differently, being that I was going to school with, say, 17-year-old or 19-year-old.
Quite interesting. So you'd say that school is more for giving you skills of how to associate with people, and as well as building more of your interpersonal skills, and as well as giving you the real life adaptation of how your work life might be and how you learn on how to adjust with people. Is that what similarly you're referring to?
Yes, in a sense, it gives you the life skills. It gives you a worldview. It shapes your worldview, rather. And it gives you context through which to place your education. Education is just really, if you think about it, it's just a vehicle, if you will. And if you lack a place to, if you and I get into the next phase and we have all this education, but we are poor in dealing with people, or poor in execution, or poor in whatever, it's of no use.
Oh, interesting. So as we're going more into the podcast and deeper into the conversation, you are the principal founder of VPF Strategies. So what is VPF Strategies and why was it founded?
Interesting question. Thank you for asking that. VPF Strategies stands for Vision, Purpose, Fulfillment, Strategies. I founded VPF Strategies after a season of really being what I would call dark night of the soul. And this is about more than 10 years ago. At the time, I happened to find myself in this space where I was quite disillusioned, Lily, completely lost it. In fact, in hindsight now, I think I had a mental health problem, but I never considered myself mentally challenged. just because for me, that doesn't exist from the context in which I grew up. You have challenges, you navigate them through, and you move forward. But it's only in hindsight later that I realized I was actually in a very bad space mentally. And so at some point I couldn't endure that. So I decided I'm going to ask these 5 questions. I used to have a mentor who would talk in this sort of conceptual, brilliant person I learned from. And he would say that to be successful in this world, you have to address these 5 questions. And whether you look at the philosophers such as Plato, or the Greek philosophers, or Machiavelli, whoever, they have all had to answer these 5 questions. And he would create a surprise and call you in to, what are these 5 questions then? And they're basically, as you ask me, who am I? Who am I? What am I here for? What can I do to bring value to others? What kind of a life do I want to create? And lastly, of course, what makes me unique? And those are questions that, if you're lucky, somebody have asked you that along the path of your life, or your parents, or whatever the case may be. And for me, I'd never considered those questions really on a serious level, even though I would listen to this person and I would get so inspired. And so this particular time, it dawned on me, in order for me to juxtapose myself from this situation, I need to write these questions down and actually have answers. And I did not know that was actually the trick to literally addressing the questions. And because I had gone through this phase of sort of being humbled and humiliated by, really, I was open to receive. It's as if my spirit or my being was really open to learn. The time that when the teacher shows up, the student will be willing to learn. Have you heard of that statement? Like when the teacher shows up, or when the student is ready, then the teacher will show up. Yes, it's one of those very interesting, like you've been dumb all your life, now wake up and learn. Yes. And the fact that I had this awareness that I need to answer these questions, I don't even know how I did, but it was for me out of my own frustration. So I did. And in retrospecting of what is my life about, I realized I used to have this question actually plague me in my mind, those 5 questions. And the question why, especially, why am I here? Is this what I came to America for? My goodness, no, I didn't expect to be here at this particular time. I'm supposed to be over here. What am I doing here? So out of that frustration came this answer to the question. And what I realized the answer was that I'd been pursuing milestones. I've been pursuing goals. Yes, I came here to get a better life and whatever. And the more you get your goals, there's always another one. There's always another one. So I discovered that if you build your life around goals, you will attain those goals. But better be careful. Those goals better be huge beyond you, because if they're not, they will suck you into this place of emptiness because there's nothing else to pursue. However, if you have purpose, you are able, it's no longer about you anymore, but you're serving others in the context of your skill set and what you love to do. And there's always a challenge. If you look at the world today, there's so much to be done and so many challenges. So there's always a better way to harness that, how to serve people. And therefore, with that understanding that when you have a purpose, it's not about you, it's about serving other person. And as you serve more people, you get the joy. And as you get that joy, which is the fulfillment piece, you will have to have that interfacing with, in the context of having a vision for your life. And I discovered the wise man said, the wise man said, without a vision, people perish. So for me, it was, you don't have a vision, you don't have purpose, and that's why you're frustrated in this particular situation you are in, and you don't like it. So to solve it, I decided, how many people perhaps could use this? So yes. So years later, I decided, well, what a better name to call my business and to serve people from that space of delivering purpose or helping people clarify their purpose so they can live fulfilled life as they create impact around them.
Wow. Quite a deep A deep story. So those questions are quite very pointy. They put you in a position of really self-evaluation. And they can actually put you in a very scary place when you discover that actually your goals were too small.
And hence, right? Hence,
Yes.
you being in a deep place.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
But if you're humble, you'll actually find, and that's the thing. I mean, I'm happy to admit to the world, I was a very hubris person, caught up in my own web. And really, I remember actually found myself in that space because I wanted to work in McKinsey, at McKinsey rather, the big four, if you will, consulting businesses. Because I always wanted to start a consulting business. I really always did. As a little kid, I just knew I'm called to serve people from the point of, I grew up with a lot of friends who are older than me, so they always shared things with me. Things that, as really, I always had friends who were older. So I think the concept that I would learn, I also wanted to share what I learned with people. So I've always had that idea of consulting, because in consulting, I felt you learn something, then you teach somebody. So therefore, being a business major and very interested in strategic planning and how people would develop themselves, I sort of ended up with this conclusion that it's better to learn from others so you don't make the same mistake. So kind of like you can avoid that sort of learning curve, if you will. And so my goal was always to suck it up from people. And I mean, not suck it up, I hate to use that word, but to learn from them so you can teach somebody else. And so I wanted to work in McKinsey because I felt it was the toppest of consulting. It's where the real Xavier is. And I want to learn everything I can learn from McKinsey to start my own consulting business. But it turns out, why can't I just be McKinsey, a different version of McKinsey? And to your point about having this low sort of level goals, it's true, because some of us are not meant to just follow a path. We are meant to create paths.
Well, it's always good to have that self-discovery. And I think there's also, I think it's a Japanese kind of, I think it's a type of, it's called Ikigai.
Ikigai, yes.
Where it's so about discovering more of, I think, what you're best at, and it's also good at repositioning yourself. So it's quite helpful to have that self-evaluation, and also discovering where you're best important into the world, rather than only pursuing the small goals, and rather discovering who you are and what you can give best to the world.
And if I may add something to that, in business, today I've loved business. My grandmother is the one who introduced me to it. I remember I always used to sell something, even growing up. And so I had this affinity for business, but I actually discovered in hindsight, in fact, I think as you're speaking of it, I had that eureka moment that, especially if you've ever taken strategic management class, they actually do Ikigai for companies. So it's almost like this, as a society, as I look at that, as you're speaking, it dawned on me that in strategic management, that's all you do. You figure out what's your competitive edge, what are your strengths, how can you serve, who are you up against, why should you position yourself to stand out in the midst of your competition? And then once you figure out that path, just pursue it. And don't just pursue it, of course, from the local place of your operations. And as you begin to see successes, grow that to the national and then global. And I just got this right now when you're talking, that Ikigai is not a new concept, although, of course, the person who codified it to that, it's brilliant. And it's meant to serve people who are sort of stuck looking for purpose. But I understand why actually I was always interested in the idea of understanding it, building and expanding it, because it's kind of like how my thought process works while I'm wired. But it's the same process I deploy when I'm working with my clients. Who are you? Because think about it, even the people who start those companies, they have to have clarity of what do you want to create? And then who are your competitors? How are you going to fit in? And who wants all these external factors? So you take that model, it's the Ikigai really in its essence.
Very, very true. Now that you've mentioned challenges, it brings me to ask, what were the challenges that you faced while starting VPF and managing it? And what are the probable solutions that you found along the way? And you could share with us on that.
Oh, enormous. So one, I don't believe you can be an entrepreneur or a creator of anything if you're not willing to learn, if you're not willing to confront challenges from the point of they're not problems, they're challenges that you can overcome. So depending on how people are wired and how they think, if you think of challenges as problem, it's very hard to, unless you also think a solution. So for me, of course, starting out, I didn't have the money, let's be honest. In fact, the reason I was in that crisis because I couldn't find a job at the time. This is about the last economic crisis. So I'm in the business environment, businesses were just tanking down. And I had just graduated at the time. And so imagine this, the whole idea of pursuing this thing so that I could graduate, go to grad school, boom, boom, boom. So, remember the goal, the trajectory of accelerated life on a very linear path. That's how my brain used to think. In fact, I tell people I used to be the kind of a person who have 5-year goal, 20-year goal, 40-year goal, and I had them. It wasn't until that whole framework was shattered because you graduated, where are the jobs? And I couldn't figure out how am I gonna, so instead of going forward, so my linear nonsense just fell apart. And so that was quite a challenge. So the greatest challenge I faced was facing myself, which is where those questions really helped. And once that was out of the way, I was able to see actually clearly that I don't need to be McKinsey. I don't need to work at McKinsey. I need to be the next McKinsey. And then how do you become the next McKinsey? And I don't have the budget. So some of us grew up with this comparable sort of unconscious situations going on in the back of our head. So even though I want to be this, McKinsey has the money, I don't. So how do I get started? But and think about it. I mean, if I'm doing consulting and speaking to people, I don't need a lot of budget to start. I just need to know somebody who's needy and serve them. And really, luckily for me, I sought mentoring. And that's where none of us can build anything great unless you're willing to seek help, especially from either people who build it or people who can give you this sort of guidance so that you're not feeling like you're lost in your own silos with your own ideas. So I think for me, that was the greatest thing that allowed for me to overcome the barrier of I don't have the money. Oh, how am I going to get started? Just find somebody who needs what you have, work with them. And if you deliver the quality service and product, they will come. They will go actually tell other people about you. And before you know, people say, if you build it, they'll come.
Wow. At any one moment, did you feel like giving up?
Oh gosh, many times. In fact, wow, giving up. Yeah. And I think for me, it's not the giving up because I didn't find something I wanted to do. It's the confrontation of, especially when you're beginning, and now I've gone through it so many times that it's very automatic. And hence the reason why all of us, just like a child, we need to grow into something. And there is such a huge value into being patient so that you can grow and learn the things you don't know. And of course, today we are living in an environment where people are instant gratification, you swipe left or whatever. And that's very destructive for the human brain because the human brain almost needs data to think of it, process it. And so, not to go back to your earlier question, how did I manage being in that space? Actually, today, it was the best thing that happened to me. And being in that crucible moment was the greatest ever blessing that I ever got because it taught me to slow down, analyze, think, plan, evaluate, what's the word I'm looking for? Evaluate and then pop up any limiting beliefs or pop up any sort of things that I've had there that have sort of belief system or things that I believe that didn't exist. So if one can be able to have to keep that aspect of who they are into place, and then also learn once you get out of that space, create and build and learn. I mean, take it from there and run with it. So I say that to say, yes, I had many challenges. And what I learned with that is that first, there's a saying that, and by the way, I kind of lost track of your question because I think I went further and further. Do you mind reminding me the question, please?
Okay.
And we're getting cut off here. Oh my, what's that?
You can proceed in your trajectory. At least we're getting down into the question, so that's fine. So you can just proceed.
No, true. I think it just dawned on me that I got a thread that I wanted to go there, but I forgot it. So if you could remind me, please.
No, that's asking, do you feel like giving up at some moments?
Oh, yeah. Now I see where I went there. Yes. And for me, yeah, excellent. Thank you. I see where I was going to piggyback in that. What I discovered life has is, I went through so many challenges, and my challenges were more of the basic needs. Because, okay, remember, it's a chicken and egg problem, right? Okay, you're in this crisis. Now you have found a business idea, great idea. Now it's time to actually bring the idea to market. Capital, who cares? If you don't have it, figure it out. Thankfully, it's a business that just requires me to see people and talk. I don't need any capital for that. However, I need eating and drinking. So how do you manage? This is what I'm supposed to pursue. This is my goal. This is my vision in life. But at the same time, there are these needs over here. And if you live in America or have ever lived in America, every single day, the meter of bills is constantly going on. The only thing that you're not charged is breathing. But everything else, boom, I'm African. So in Africa, you can manage your life based on where you are. In America, the bills are going in, whether you're in the house or not, it doesn't matter. So there is this aspect of me that requires you create the business, right? And there's another side of me that requires to figure out the basic needs. And I struggled with that so many times because I find myself dribbling in, I would get a job, and then I'm not happy, I'm out. I go look for, it's like I would find this job, I would get employed after 3 months. I can't do this anymore. Because I know I have an idea that I'm working on. And the more I'm working this job, it's taking me away from this thing. So I literally would quit and actually go and work on my idea. And then before I know, so yes, in terms of looking back, that was the greatest challenge because I felt that I was fighting these two conflicting ideas that are very real and very, they're real. And if I don't address them, I'll end up back where I was. So doing it so many years, I finally figured it out. And this is, if you get somebody who can guide you through this, it really gives you a lot of peace of mind. And that in the beginning, just like the Ikigai sort of points out, figure out what you can do for your vision, for your long term, and then figure out something you can do for now to address the need that you have. But you find maybe some people get a great job. Usually they stick there and then they overlook this side of them that wants to create and grow. That's the danger because you're stable, but then you don't have the joy of creating and serving people and growing in that context of creating an impact. But the challenge for the people who want to create an impact is I have this impact and I know I want to create it and I have seen the fruit. However, it's not enough to cater to my bills. So the balance is, I always like to ask people, depending on where you start, think of it as 60-40, 50-50, percentage 70-30. Go to work 40 hours a week. Yes, it's what you have to do, figure it out. At night, work on your idea. And then as you begin to see whatever bare minimums or break even you need, then at some point switch over. And that may take 10 years, may take whatever years, but get in touch with who you are and where you are and what you're trying to build. And then proceed. And don't let other things distract you because there are many shiny objects out there.
That's tapping on the part of legacy. So as we do a switcheroo and get deeper into our topic of the day,
yes,
what does creating a legacy of kindness really mean?
Yes, thank you. That's my greatest question. Because whenever I work with a client, the best way to start thinking of legacy, think about you and I. Nobody's thinking about dying. I'm not dying. I'm not dying soon. I'm dying after I've finished my work. At least that's my prayer. And I pray to God grant me that prayer. But I do want to leave this world after I die. My mentor used to say, die empty. I'm a student of Dr. Miles Monroe, very huge purpose guy. And his point
Very
was,
smart
die
guy.
empty. Yes, die empty, right? And I didn't used to understand what that concept is. And, he explained things quite simply. Dying empty is making sure you delivered all you're meant to deliver. And so when you think about creating a legacy when you're in your prime 20s or 30s or even 40s or even 50s sometimes, no, I'm still living my life. I'm not thinking about death or whatever. And you can create, it's very hard for a human being to think about legacy unless you juxtapose yourself that you're on a pilgrimage, that at some point you're going to have to leave this world. So that thought itself is very daunting to the mind, and it's daunting to some of us who don't want to confront it. However, there's a way to juxtapose your minds to it. And it's very inspiring. I believe Steve Jobs captured it when he says, vision is actually deciding what it is that you want to do, and it has to be huge and humongous. And then with your passion, you have to have a passion to go after it. Because and I'm of course paraphrasing here, but once you figure out what that is, you want to create the kind of vision, the world you want to create, imagine it, right? And he's of course the epitome of imagination. Look, everybody loves Apple, whatever. And then once you figure out that, once you have that imagined idea in your head, and then your passion is embedded into that idea will pull it to you. And so think about it. So when I work with my clients, and I learned this from my mentor, is the best way to help your mind go that far is you think of actually your death. So I have people do this exercise where you write your eulogy. You have to write your eulogy now. Don't wait for somebody else to write it. You sit down and write your eulogy the way you would like people to know you. Don't wait for somebody else to say he was this, he was that. No. Write who Carolyne was XYZ, Samuel was this and this and this. But it's not just from somebody's mind. It is because that's what they saw in you. So if you imagine that, create it and write it, then from that you have a thread route to work it backwards. And there is creating a legacy. And it's not, so based on what you want to become, create from that space. And as you can imagine, it's a very hard process for a human mind to think of becoming that huge thing. To your point earlier, that's why when we think of goals, it limits us to the realm of thought and imagination, because a goal is just a goal. But legacy, it's beyond this life. It's your next grandkids and great-great-great-grandkids.
So would you say that creating a legacy of kindness is about creating an empathetic way of how you want people to remember you, of the good things you've done, or how you've treated them? Is it something like that?
Yes, and to actually bring it down home. So let us actually, hopefully all of us learn from this. So the goal in this case, you want to create a legacy of, so every single thing you want to become, once you see it, you imagine yourself there. I don't believe in visualization. It doesn't work for me. Really, it doesn't. For me, it's sitting and considering the issue at hand. So I introspect a lot. I enjoy being quiet these days, and people who know me may not believe that. But imagine sitting with that ideal of creating a legacy of kindness. You can only create that which you are part of, or that which you have. True or false? True, right? So you can create something from nowhere. You create it because you have the seed, which again, I love Dr. Miles Monroe because he talks about seed. It's that thing that when it grows, it has a fruit. So in this case, kindness from the grand, huge, is what you want to deliver in the world, or to want to live in this world. So if you think of that being the fruit, it's very easy to believe. And if you don't believe that you have a seed for kindness, then why would you? So the fact that you're drawn to the desire for kindness, it's an indication that deep down in your heart, you have the seed for it. You have the capability to bring it forth. And therefore, once you now begin to imagine that seed and the fruit it's going to bring you, the question is, how do you bridge the gap? between the seed and the fruit. And that's where, this is where your life is. So it's the seed, the beginning process, and the fruit. Every single day, therefore, when you wake up, you know you want to create this. So your intentions are built in to your activities, to your daily interactions. And it's so wonderful because you don't have to force yourself. At least I found once you sit with that idea, your brain is wired toward that goal, because the goal is legacy of kindness. Every single day, everybody I interface with, I'm reminded the seed of being kind, be kind, be kind. And before you know, the fruit will show up.
So in line with an organization, what would be the disadvantages of not creating a legacy of kindness?
That's a deep question. Please ask it again so I can process, but it's deep.
Well, if we're now to contextualize it for an organization,
yes,
what would be the disadvantages that will be faced for not creating a legacy of kindness?
Brilliant. I'll base it in two ways. One, from a principle or a concept that I had from a mentor, either I read it in a book or somewhere, that if you succeed and you don't know why you succeeded, you are a fool. Or in other words, like really, that's God have mercy on you, or me for that matter. Because, so to your point, any organization for that matter, any organization that thrives, because I think we are talking about thriving organizations, because if you're not even thriving, you don't exist in the context of the conversation. Remember, to build anything that thrives, again, the 5 questions, which is kind of the framework, the back end, and then now you create it and you want to create it for a long-term view and to create that legacy. So you as the founder of that company, you must have sat down with yourself and answered the whole question of success and what you want to become first. It's unavoidable, it's inevitable. Then once you have that framework within you, you bring in, because think about organizations is just a child. It's like a child. And you can only bring forth what you are and what you have. So once you bring in the organization with that intentionality of every day, I want to be this, I want to be that. You create now a culture. So it's up to you now, the people you hire. Because if you just hire anybody mindlessly, they'll bring their version of whatever. And if you don't manage, if you've been successful on your own and wanting to create that culture of kindness, wanting to create a legacy of kindness, because that's you as a person. And now you create a thing that is outside you, that grows and interfaces with external stakeholders whose idea may be completely different. You bet you're not going to be able to create a culture of kindness. You will only create it if every single day, as the founder of that company, you are letting people know this is who I am and that's why I created this thing. And therefore, if you want to play in this environment, by all means, I would ask that you understand that this is who we are here. And therefore, you will always receive people who also want to create the same. And therefore, not only does your intentionality now move from being you have infected other people. And therefore, there's no way a company built on that cannot succeed. Because at the heart of that aspect of thought is to impact every person you interact with, just as you would in your own personal life, right?
Yep, interesting. So as you've been talking about entrepreneurs and leaders setting the pace for their organizations in terms of the legacy of kindness, are there any leaders that you can cite that have followed this kind of ideology and have successfully achieved it?
Yes, I would say, of course, first of all, my mentor, the late Dr. Miles Monroe. This man is gone now, but he's created a phenomenal business that thrives. And it's still, when you engage in his content, or he was a consultant, advisor, whatever, you feel this, you actually engage with the man, even though he doesn't exist. And for me, that's when I work with founders, especially or business owners, that's where I'm not interested in what it is that you're doing, although most of them would come to me, hey, I want to grow my business and I'm stuck and and the first thing they expect is us to do break-even analysis or numbers. And believe you me, I don't like doing the numbers. However, I understand them. So it's usually very challenging for me sometimes to shift them to, if you want to build your business, you need to step back and sit quietly and think of what kind of business you want to build. And so usually they feel like I'm taking them 10 steps backward. And so there's this level of resistance. But I would say God has granted me the grace to engage somebody to the point where once they see it, now they want it. So in terms of creating that, yes, Miles Monroe is one of them. He's created a product that is immortal, as I like to say. It's immortal in the sense that he's gone, but what he has created continue to serve people day in, day out. And to create that kind of a product or service, it requires not only meticulous thought, reflection, intentionality, and purpose. Because there are many people who've created other things. They've gone. We don't remember them, do we? We don't. And then the other person would be the founder of Southwest Airlines, Hubert Keller, I think his name. In fact, this man built a business, Southwest Airlines, around, we just want to help the average person travel to many places. That was his concept. And how did he do it? He did it by just engaging the human spirit and saying, you know what, it doesn't matter. We're going to give you the best value in terms of pricing and make sure that you travel in different places. But in order for him to engage, because imagine now, if you're charging less, you don't have enough numbers to pay your people as much as you would want to. So he figured out a way of how do you attract then quality talent, quality pilots, or human power, right? So he went to the human spirit and he shared that vision with them. And then he nurtured the people. In fact, this man, it's noted that he built his culture around loving people, love. And you and I, we've been into business school. We don't talk about love. Love, please, try and talk about love in corporate environment. People will think you're stupid and crazy. But today, they want to talk to you about emotional intelligence. There's no way I can be emotional intelligence with you if I don't value and trust and care for you. True?
Yes, sir.
Really, I can't. So yes, so Hubert Keller, and a few others out there, yeah. So, but he's the one who stands up to mind, and of course, Dr. Miles Monroe. And those are the people that I try to study when I think of these things. And by the way, people can tell when you're faking your love, because it can only go so far.
Mm-hmm.
But these people have created models that even though they are gone, I think he died 2 years ago, it still stands because he was able to, that was who he was, or that's who you are. So you really can't get into this kind of legacy work unless you do the inner work, be in touch with yourself, and be true to yourself that this is how you want to show up in the world. And today you hear authenticity. You can't do authenticity unless you first of all deal with you, because people will can tell.
True. Awesome. So now we are going to look a little bit to the future.
Let's go.
And look into, maybe let's look at using a telescope.
Let's do it.
VPF, where do we see it in the future? What should we expect?
What should we expect? I will not assume to know the future. No, I do not. Clearly, I pray for the skill set to be able to tell tomorrow.
Or did COVID wreck it?
Exactly. But however, there are trends. And they say the only way to tell the future, you first of all take some time and look at the past, because history repeats itself, right? And to go back into even my own experience of today, you hear me talk about my crucible moments were like the best. By the way, if you're interested, there's an article, I write, and there's an article about that. I mean, if you read it, you now know that it's my whole experience that I wrote it from. But I think the piece is about how crucible moment shapes our life. And I invoke that because, one, look at where we are in the global context of things. We're in a pandemic for the last 2 years. And if you look at the last 10 years, we were in another crisis, in which case it's the genesis of who I've become today. And so for me, actually, I have found that now I tend to think in terms of what's the next crisis. It's like now I'm built to expect it because I have gone through this history of every 10 years, there's something that's always happening. Now I'm very aware that in the next 10 years, you better be sure, unless we as human beings change, because I think these sort of disruptions and changes are coming because they are as a result of our behavior. They're as a result of, I mean, look at the economic crisis. We all know it's the real estate market or the financial market. Lack of the integrity there is what promulgated the crisis. Today, pandemic. Until we get to the bottom line, how did we end up here? We will not be able to actually have the foresight to realize we as human beings, we will always stumble upon some other stuff that will blow up and create another crisis. It seems to me that that's how human beings tend to live their life. So yes, in the next 10 crises, please, by all means, be ready, expect something to really be at the forefront. What is that? I don't know. But being that we are in the era of the machine learning, the Internet of Things, I believe it's only going to accelerate to a different power, a different degree. Because I recall, and I say that because when 10 years ago, after I came out of that crisis, in trying to navigate who am I going to become, what do I want to become, I did a lot of research, and I came across a term that is now called the future of work. And so for me, for the last 10 years, I've been in tune with what that is, just because I didn't know what that was. And the more I did research in trying to figure out what do I want to be in 10 years, and I think I was attracted because there was a future thing. So what I believe that statement is alluding to is all these changes that are coming, that constantly continue to come. And these changes are not very elusive. They're actually around us. We can see them. We are aware. And so having seen that and having seen where we are now, because it's almost about 10 years ago, and 5 years ago, you would hear conferences about machine learning, trying to change the workforce because we will need a different type of thought. But look where we are now. We are virtual working. So thankfully, I've had that insight in the past. And I can only say that machine learning in the context of data and expansion is what's going to lead us to the next 10 years kind of a change. I don't know what that is, but I pray to God that I do find out. And if I do, I'll make sure I let you know.
Awesome. Now, since we've talked of the future, now let's talk about the past.
Okay.
What would be the best advice you'd give to your 19-year-old self?
Oh my goodness. I remember the day I asked myself that question. And it's simple. Don't be attached to anything in this world. And do not be close-minded. Be open to learn, be agile, but do not be attached. Now, what do I mean by those two things first? Because I'm about to bring that trend. It's like a triad, if you will. Do not be attached. In other words, do not be attached to things that you think you know, because otherwise you have what they call the fixed mindset, right? And you can't learn. And on the other hand, don't be attached to things that are meaningless, that keep you bound in that fixed nonsense thinking, whether it's a belief system where we grew up or whatever, because as you can see, people have to change. People who are thinking that we can only work in an office, the disruption in their mind right now is beyond understanding. And that's what leads to things such as mental health. And I say that with humility because I've been there. Now I know I was there because I couldn't reconcile these changes were happening, but I was not willing to change from the view that I had. So that's one. So do not be attached to anything, but be open to learn. Because when you're open, you're constantly challenging things. You're challenging the belief system. You're saying, you're not just open to receive anything. Be open with that intellectual curiosity to it. What is this? Why is this? Again, ask those questions. Because if you ask intelligent questions, as Sam would say, you will get intelligent answers. But if you ask stupid questions, you will get stupid answers. So the key is inquisition. The other thread is it sort of must go against what I just said, because make sure that you know who you are. Because at the end of the day, you cannot manage fixed mindset or growth mindset or the ability to be agile until, again, you're first grounded on a solid ground. And that's why I wrote my book, Being Grounded, because I realized the reason I was tossed by this goal and that goal and this, because I didn't have that firm foundation. And without that firm foundation, just like a tree, which I like to use the metaphors of trees, I've never seen a tree that keeps moving from here to here. A tree, once you put the seed on the ground, in the right soil, in the right environment, it's there for life. And you and I ought to be there because we are unique. We have skills and talents to bring to the world. And once we first of all know what's the right environment for me to be in terms of my belief system, who am I? Why do I want to be who I am? And then hold on to that idea and do not compromise that, your values. Then you're able to navigate between, is this a good path? Is it not? Fixed or grow, and you'll be able to weave that through. And so no matter whatever comes, you'll still be standing. So that's the advice I would give myself. But I didn't know that then, and now I know.
I believe your 19-year-old self would be very excited with the advice.
I think they would too.
So how would you like to be remembered?
Oh, wow, yes. How would I like to be remembered? I would like to be remembered as someone who inspired. I would like everybody whom I've met and interfaced with to remember me as somebody who helped them wholeheartedly pursue that which is purposeful to them. Because first of all, and somebody who helped them have that level of clarity of who they are, and that they were able to receive that from either my interaction with them or whatever. And because they got that and they understood that, they were able not to go and create that thing. So I like to be remembered as someone who really encouraged, inspired, and helped and supported people's dream. And because she did, the world is full of praise. And you create things that are sustainable even beyond after you and I have gone. I desire people to create products and services and value that will outlast my life. And so if I can do that, actually, I'll be living even after I'm dead.
Awesome. As you're from Africa, what would be your message to the up and coming startup founders and entrepreneurs? What would be your special message to them?
Are you sure you had to ask me that?
Oh, yes,
You really had to ask me that question. Okay, I'm going to be as raw as I can be, because this was one very profound to me and it's very personal, but I think this is what, and you can echo me. I would like to actually ask you the same question after I answer it. For me, I like to tell my fellow Africans, don't be too excited about growth unless you understand this growth. It will actually take you to the pit of hell, because growth for growth's sake is not worth it. So what's my suggestion therefore? Before I answer that, I'll give you, if I had this from a mentor or read somewhere, but think about this statement. I had somebody say, if we are like dogs chasing cars. Yeah, I know, yeah. We, human beings, we are like dogs chasing cars. Now let's break that down for, because when I heard it, I was like, what is he talking about? Come on. And being he's a wise man, so I listened a little bit. I think it was a conference or something. And he said, think about it. Can a dog drive? No. So a dog, I've seen them chasing cars, right? So imagine it's chasing a car. And then finally, the car slowed down and he has the car. It can drive. So what's the point? So before you can pursue anything or run after this growth, then yes, Africa has potential. We must know who we are. We must first of all ask ourselves who we are, why do we want to grow, and why do we want to pursue whatever innovations apparently we are trying to seek. Because if we are not careful, those very innovations are going to take us away from who we are meant to be and who we truly are. And we are not the first. Romans were there and other people that have gone before us. So the beauty of Africans is that, as some would say, we may be the late, what do they call it? You know how you have the fast movers? We are the late adopters of the technology just because of the nature of our continent, right? We have a great advantage to learn from others that have gone before us. Like, if we don't know who we are as a continent, as a people, we'll self-destruct. Look at the world now. If we don't know why we are who we are, we will self-destruct. So let's figure out who we are first. Let's figure out what we believe, what we stand for, and be very clear about those values. And be very clear what kind of product we are bringing to the market. Is it product for product's sake? Or it's product that is meaningful, that can solve people's lives? Or is this product to make money? Ask yourself that, because money is great. I want some of it. But money without the real purpose and the real focus and the real legacy consideration, it will suck you into itself.
Interesting. Well, as we wind this up, what would be your final remarks?
Know thyself. I absolutely, oh my gosh, yeah. I don't want to sound like Plato or one of those luminaries, but it's true. If you don't know who we are, or if I don't know who I am, somebody will tell me who I am. And for many years, I didn't know who I was. I really didn't. So you're hearing from somebody who left Africa to pursue the American dream. And yes, we can talk to you off the camera about what that is now that I'm actually in America. So do not pursue anybody's dream. By all means, pursue your own. I mean, Martin Luther made it clear. He had a dream. And apparently many people had the same dream or their own kind of dream. So figure out what your dream is and figure out how you want to engage in that dream. And whoever wants to join you, they join Martin Luther, so they'll join you too.
Wow, really powerful. Know thyself.
Know thyself.
So it has really been an honor having you on the WowFactor podcast, and we're really honored to have you as a guest, Carolyne. And as I always sign out saying to the whole world, the future is bright, the future is ready, let's go win it. So that
I agree. The future is, in fact, it's never has been brighter. And to my fellow Africans, it's actually brighter for you. Brighter for you. And I'm only saying that because I'm African and I know the challenges that we deal with. But to everybody who is alive today, go get it. I mean, we all have the same opportunities, Africa or not Africans. I mean, the future is brighter for all. So know thyself. So Samuel, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much.
I really appreciate it and grateful.
Pleasure having you on board.
Thank you.